Hello there! Welcome to another episode of FoodButHow. We are a group of master's degree students from the Technical University of Munich. Through the development of this project, we aim to offer an overview of the production, distribution, and consumption stages of the food system and its relation to climate change. We are hosting a series of interviews with people from these interconnected yet unique branches of the food system. We know the food system is complex with its many interconnected parts. In the previous episodes of Food But How, we provided a glimpse of what soil science, agricultural research, or farm to table practices mean for the sustainability of our food system. Now we are on the last link of the chain. This is Selcen. I'm currently a student in Politics and Technology Master's Program. But I also have an experience working as a chef in various restaurants. And before starting today's podcast, I would like to emphasize how restaurants play a role in the food system. Sustainability is a pressing issue in every corner of our lives. However, when it comes to restaurants, it is like a no-go zone. When we think about sustainable food, we tend to think about measurable things such as the use of pesticides and fertilizers, the condition in animal feedlots, buying organic vegetables, choosing grass-fed beef. But the sustainability of the system cannot only be defined by easily visible things. That's why examining only agriculture-related practices would not be enough for the continuity of our system. According to studies, millions of tons of food are wasted during every stage of the food value chain. Out of this amount, the consumption stage is account for 30 to 35% of the total waste, and the amount of food waste from restaurant is almost half of the total waste produced. Many countries are setting targets to reduce their food waste. For example, Europe has targets set to halve the amount, and we cannot achieve this goal without curbing the food waste created by restaurants. And another important thing is that restaurants represent a part of our economic system. As a sector, they hold a considerable amount of employees. They create economic value every day, and they channel investments. If there are standards to evaluate a company's sustainability by a set of environmental and social standards, like it is done with ESGs in European Green Deal, we can also evaluate restaurants from this perspective. To classify a restaurant as a green restaurant, it is necessary to check if its activities are aligned with the sustainability dimensions. For a moment, let's think of the concept of eating out. From going out to a candlelit restaurant to taking a quick bite from the neighborhood corner or ordering takeout from your favorite fast food place or even eating in a school canteen. These actions represent a crucial part of our daily lives, as well as they take up some part of our budget. Therefore, they also require a close-up attention if we are concerned with the sustainability of our system. Today in Food But How, we are together with a successful chef who is also in search of alternatives to our conventional food system of extract more, waste more. She will share her knowledge and experience by being an employee in restaurants and hotels. Hello, Tugce. Could you please introduce us yourself a little? I know you have a background in genetic engineering, but you choose to work in kitchens. And now you are working in one of the best restaurants in Australia. So tell us more.
Hello, Selcan. Thank you for inviting me, first of all. I'm really excited to talk about sustainability today. I'm a chef. My background, as you said, I was a genetic engineer. I wanted to do something more creative, so I chose to be a chef. Now I'm working in a restaurant called Etika, which is one of the best restaurants in Australia, in Melbourne. It is a fine dining restaurant. We are trying our best to do our food in a really sustainable way. And I'm really excited about this topic actually, because I think it's really important to influence our customers, because ourselves as chefs, we have the power to influence people, and we have a choice to what to cook, and people have a choice to what they eat actually. So I think it is really important to think about these kind of issues when we are using resources of our planet.
I'm totally agree with you on that. And when it comes to sustainability in restaurants, we always talk about individual chefs, right? Like who are ambitious about sustainable food. We keep an eye on the sector leading restaurants like Etika, as you said. But what is actually sustainability in the restaurant industry is a question we recently started to ask. There is a reaction against the global food economy that weakens the cultures and cuisines. We are concerned with seasonality, locality, and direct relationship with farmers, but there must be also another indicators to evaluate. So, what would be the indicators for a restaurant to operate environmentally sustainable? What kind of environmental practices we can keep in mind as a chef in the kitchen or as an eater to evaluate a restaurant? What do you think about it?
Actually, there's a cross-sectional study that has been carried on in Brazil from February 2020, and
Mm.
it examines the sustainability indicators for restaurants. And with this study, it is the assessment tool with the name. It is a Green Restaurants Assessment, which
Yeah.
is shortened as GRASS for evaluation and classification of the restaurants, considering the sustainability indicators. So they have different sections about how they are going to assess these restaurants. For example, they assess the water, energy, and gas supplies. They assess the menu and the food waste. They assess the waste reduction, construction materials, chemicals, employees, and social sustainability. And there are things that we can do in our daily life to assess a restaurant. Also, like we have things to do as chefs in the kitchen in order to be more environmentally sustainable. For example, we can think about our food waste. I think that's the easiest thing that we can do, because I think there is a big issue in food waste. We don't consider about what are we going to do with all this food waste, and most of the restaurants, as far as I observed, because they are not regulated with any other external power, they just throw these food waste into the bin, and we have to consider what we can do with these and how harmful it is for the environment.
And how can the menu design can help us or can benefit us for lowering our food waste in the restaurants? What do you think about it? Like how can we design the menu?
As chefs, of course, it is really hard to build a 100% sustainable menu, but always we can do best of what we can. There are materials like, for example, let's say proteins, which we consider to use all of it because it's expensive, and we generally do to not to lose money. But other products such as vegetables, we don't consider as much, because customers have some sort of perspective. They still see the vegetables are less valuable than a protein product, so we don't consider these offcuts as waste. But still, yeah, we still have an agricultural problem, so we should aim to use most of the vegetable products as possible. And also, we can change the mainstream idea of using a material fully, not only to satisfy the customer in some sort of, but we can also educate as well. So we can design a smart menu.
We shouldn't be only using the core of a vegetable, right? We should also be considering in the menu design what we will do with the peel, or what we will do with the edible shavings, or what we will do with the stalks of a certain vegetable, right? Like when we are designing the menu, especially to use every part of every ingredient.
Yeah, exactly. Like these days, actually, it is really popular to use every part of an ingredient, and we
Mhm.
have now more open customers to all of the ideas. So I can think of right now, we can use the peels and we can dehydrate them and we can make a powder, and it will be really impressive even to
Right.
use all of the parts of the vegetables. And also, it is a tasty idea.
Exactly. I'm definitely with you on that. There are also another points that caught my attention in the study. For example, there are indicators related to resource usage. So when we say resource, we don't only mean vegetables and meats and protein that we buy for the restaurant, right? We also use water, energy, and gas in restaurants. So we should also be considering these indicators when it comes to restaurant sustainability. For example, I'm thinking having a goal for reducing water consumption, or performing immediate repair in case of a water leakage, or checking the pressure of kitchen faucets, not using running water to heat or cool something in restaurants, which I observe very frequently while working in kitchens, or fully loading the dishwasher before running. These kind of small things add up, right? Or having smart energy meters, thinking about natural ventilation instead of being dependent on air coolers all the time, or having audible alarms for refrigerators, freezers, ovens when the door left open, or what can I say, having smart lighting controls, using renewable energy, setting targets for reducing gas usage. These are all related to water, energy, and gas usage when it comes to usage, right? And what do you think about, for example, general waste?
Yeah, actually, like general waste management, including paper, glass, and plastic recycling, I can think of these things that we can be more careful about because, like,
We have to be
they're,
separating them during our operation, right? Like during the production.
yeah, absolutely. Like, there should be no other reason that a restaurant should be run differently than any other organization. Actually, if you think about that, daily wastage is higher than any like regular small company. And I don't
Exactly.
see any reason that we should be considered differently than this.
Exactly. For example, I came across to a study uh, that's been done in Belgium, and according to the study, organic waste recycling in Belgium, despite efforts towards the circular economy, is still 61% of the restaurants do not collect organic waste. I think this is a serious number.
I'm thinking about where I live and what where I worked before, and like most of them, if they are not forced to recycle, they are not recycling. And especially when we are getting deliveries, we have lots of packaging left over which has been not getting reused, and if we are not recycling that, that's a huge amount of waste.
Great point, Sucha. I think this is so important because, especially during COVID, because of the health concerns, people started taking more takeout. And what happens to packaging boxes? What happens to takeout cups, right? We should also be thinking about this general waste.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we should also like educate the customers as well. Most of them where I live, they care about recyclable packaging. They try not to buy from places that are using plastic instead of recyclable, reusable packaging. But like the decision is still with us, because if we promote our products with that reusable or recyclable packaging, people be more aware, and even when they are getting a takeout, they should know that it is recyclable, so they should throw it in a recyclable bin instead of general waste, because that what happens also. Like even though you use a recyclable packaging, if there's still food in it, people have a tendency to throw out in a general waste bin instead of emptying it out and putting on a recycling bin.
And as I've heard, for example, in Germany, if a packaging paper, for example, if you have a takeout from a pizza place, you have paper packaging. But since because this paper is already greasy, it's not reusable or recyclable anymore. So we have to be finding solutions, maybe not recyclable, but reusable packaging, right?
Yeah, that's a really good idea actually. I'm having the same concerns when I'm buying something from outside as well. For example, a lot of people I realize they don't know it is not recyclable anymore if you put something greasy, as you said, or you have to quickly wash it in some cases. And that's another topic though, because this time you have to use water instead of like you use another resource in order to recycle something. So reusable packaging is a great idea, I think, because then people would be more careful and aware that they should bring their own maybe containers. I don't know. We have to think about how to apply these to the pizza boxes, though. I don't think they have a huge containers, but still, like that, if you think
We
about
can
it,
find
and
solutions, I
yeah, of
think.
course, like yeah, absolutely. Like if you put your mind into it, there is always a solution with everything.
What else we can count in the general list? Like as I can remember, the cleaning products also have an importance, right? What kind of cleaning products we are using to clean our kitchens, always important. If it's chemical and if it's harming the planet, we should also be thinking about them, right?
For example, we recently changed our cleaning products from generally there are brands which is restaurant grade, because there is an perception that organic products, especially, they don't work as much as the
Bleach.
restaurant grade chemicals and bleach, for example. Yeah, but there are alternatives now, and if you research about them, you can see that there are lots of alternatives that you can buy, organic products that they don't harm the environment, and like bleach and the other chemicals are so harmful because you still pour the waste from the gutter or like any other like bin area that's still going to be connected with your water source.
Excellent summary of the indicators related to environmental sustainability, Tuğçe. Thank you. So now I would like to slowly introduce the challenges related to social sustainability part of restaurants. With the COVID-19 outbreak, it affected every industry and everyone who lives and works all over the world. And it became a catalyzer to show how fragile the food system is, right? And now we can say that it created a window of opportunity to break the pet dependency we have in our food system. From a social sustainability perspective, many restaurants took a hard hit with mandatory lockdowns and safety measurements. The restaurant industry has lost almost three times more jobs than any other industry. And additionally to this, as I have read and heard from multiple channels, people left the industry during pandemic, right? And they do not want to return to their old jobs. Therefore, a pandemic-fueled labor shortage is a reality we cannot disregard. So, what do you think about this labor shortage in restaurants, and how and why did it happen, and how it will impact the sustainability of the industry?
Yeah, especially where I live in Melbourne, in Australia in general as well. Like during the pandemic, during many lockdowns, I saw many restaurants. They put a sign in front of their restaurants. They said, "We are closed because if cannot find any other worker." So like they are closed because of the lack of workers. So it is really dramatic in here. And I think during the lockdown, first of all, a lot of people had to return their home because at the beginning there was no government support for people who migrated in here. Now we are not in lockdown currently, but in last lockdown, they helped a little, but it was too late already. And if I can speak about in here, a lot of people who is working in hospitality industry, they are people who immigrated in here or they are students.
I think it's the reality of everywhere, right? As I read, for example, in Europe, almost 60% of hospitality industry workers are immigrants. So this shouldn't be only about Australia.
I think so as well. And students normally have only 20 hours working permit in Australia, but now they had to change it to an unlimited hours. Uh, at first, they did that only for hospitality, but they extended that as well. The government said that now students work unlimited in every sector as possible because Australia really needs, especially hospitality workers, but workers in general. I think it helped the sector a lot because now people don't have to think about how many hours they can work or the hospitality is the right sector for them. Like especially during the lockdown, people had a chance to assess their quality of life also, as like a period of time they couldn't work. Um, they realized that they are working a lot, their working conditions, this shortage in hospitality sector affected like many restaurants, and less workers, less people means more workload in the restaurants as well. So whoever is left in Australia, the people who are still working in hospitality, they were really under pressure, and they worked more than already that they were working. And as you know, kitchens are very busy places. Less people means more stress, more pressure, and more work means they have a chance to compare with the other industries as well. They start to think, is this salary enough for them? Does this job worth it? Because if you push yourself too much, there's no life and work balance anymore. There is only work.
Yeah, this is definitely a very important point when it comes to social sustainability of the restaurants, because if you're not able to talk about equal income, fair labor, quality of life, gender equality, how can we be able to talk about the social sustainability of restaurants, right? How can we succeed finding people who still wants to work in the industry? So how these concepts resonates with the restaurant industry? Can you give us some examples what you have encountered about these issues?
Yeah, sure. This topic actually relates with the lack of workers as well, because when you have difficult working environments, you lose passionate people about cooking in this industry. And whatever whoever is still wants to do this job, they just stay in this. Either they don't have any other choice, or they're just in this for the money. So the working conditions going worse every day. It affects your like quality of life. Long hours, you have to stay like more than 50 hours. I can think of 50 is a normal in hospitality now, and every day more passionate people wants to join this sector, but when they realize that there's a sector that needs long hours, the kitchens are really difficult places, and there is no time for communication as well. this makes it very difficult to stay motivated and still be passionate about cooking. And
And be careful about cooking sustainably, right? Because
yeah, exactly.
now you started mentioning the reality of restaurants. We've been discussing about the environmental and social sustainability indicators for restaurants. However, we should also acknowledge what is the reality of workers, right? So thank you for opening up this discussion. And I think you also mentioned why we are not able to achieve cooking sustainably. What are the obstacles that restaurant workers face regarding sustainability, or why and how does food waste is not limited in restaurant kitchens? So, as a beginning, you mentioned the lack of time and lack of employees. What would be the other reasons to come?
Lack of employee and time is a big problem regarding sustainability. If you don't have enough time and enough employees, there is no room for thinking about sustainability, because as a business owner, you have to think about time management, and time is money. Also, there are lots of restaurants that does the inventory management programs. They use inventory management programs, but it is not common enough, I think. And
And this is for reducing food waste, right?
yeah,
If we don't have a good inventory system, this food is under danger of being wasted.
yeah, absolutely. If you don't know what's in your restaurant, actually, making you lose money, also it's not sustainable as well. So it is really handful to use the inventory management programs. So another aspect that I can think of is the respect for the products. When you think about the ingredients, you have to really know what the ingredients are and which dishes that you can use this in order to not waste it.
As we discussed previously, using every part of every product, right? Not only protein products, which is costing, but also products which has lower costs, but things that we also need to be considering.
Yeah, especially if you have knowledge about where you live, how you can access the local products, and also using it in a really efficient way. It is really important. Another thing that I can think of, competition in the market and expectations of the customer, the excellence expectations. The customers are expecting the wow factor from every angle. So this puts a big pressure to the restaurants and chefs, because they focus on the appearance of the products. They care less about the waste rather than making it pretty. So, for example, using the fillet of the fish and disregarding the rest, and using only the center of the vegetable and wasting the rest, like I can think of. These are really important to think about. But as customers, also, we have to consider that these expectations have a background also. We have to educate ourselves what we are eating and how it is getting prepared. And the other issue, sustainability is not a certain topic that we can discuss.
It's not perfectly described, right?
Yeah, exactly. Like there is no 100% description, I think. And it makes this not transparent in some sort of. When there's no descriptions, no one knows what to expect from a business, because you have to evaluate a business if you are really conscious about sustainability, and you have to assess the situation. So what are the things that they can do to be more sustainable? For example, are they doing recycling? How they are purchasing their product? How they are managing their waste? It is under closed curtains, actually. It is behind somewhere that you don't know. You know the restaurant, but they can say, oh, we are preparing this in a real sustainable way. But how? And how sustainable are they? You don't know.
The eaters don't have a point to grade the restaurants, right? Like, even though we always search sustainable food, we still don't know how to grade the restaurants in terms of sustainability. I mean, we have different organizations to support green chefs, green restaurants, but when we look at them, we see they're not transparent enough. We don't know how do they grade these restaurants. We don't know what do they check because there's also an insufficient legislation, right? What do you think about it?
Yeah, I think the restaurants are lack of government incentives, and there are no incentives for positive actions also. So government should provide the legal background and to regulate the working conditions in the hospitality industry. But also, we are lacking the laws to ensure social and environmental sustainability when it comes to the food production in the restaurants. There are no positive encouragement for the industry. No one gives you an award, or they don't do anything positive if you say that, oh, I'm recycling, or I'm using a compost bin, for example. Yeah, like you can market this by yourself, but it would be really great that for the small businesses as well, if there's no option for them to promote this, if they get a positive intensive, why not? Like more restaurants, more small businesses would recycle.
Tax subsidies for restaurants who recycle. This can be a policy recommendation, right?
Yeah, exactly. Like instead of punishing, we can reward the restaurants.
Exactly. And we discussed that the restaurant workers already don't have time to consider sustainability issues. And on top of that, there's no positive encouragement. And until here, when discussing the relationship between sustainability and restaurants, we mainly discuss the approaches for how to mitigate our impact on the environment, such as we talk about the resource usage, we talk about the food waste, we talk about the processes, but adapting to climate change is also a challenge for the food system. Therefore, it's a challenge for the restaurants too. So, regarding this issue, what kind of adaptation measures the restaurants, therefore the food industry workers, can take to ensure that the food system will adjust itself in the future? And I think of the situation as an example where chefs pioneer the usage of certain products in order to adapt our food system to protect biodiversity. For example, I remember of a situation because of the climate change, seawater temperatures are changing. So we see some invasive species populate and have a negative impact on the biodiversity on certain regions. There has been an initiation in Turkey, I can remember, that President of the Mediterranean Conservation Society works with the chefs of the restaurants in the region. One of the invasive and external species in Mediterranean is lionfish right now, and acting in conjunction with this association, the chefs of the region started the lead for the usage of this invasive fish species. They are trying to popularize its use by promoting this fish by using it in their own recipes. So I think this act of partnership between biodiversity protection associations and restaurants can be a really good example of the adaptation approaches. What do you think about it?
Yeah, I think this situation works for both ways. Like there is also another side of the coin. The chefs, as we said, have the power to quickly popularize the certain products and ingredients. So, like as a result, in some cases, it is so popular that it comes to a point of commercial extinction. Um, we can call this power of scale that that the restaurants have with their menus, signifying a platform of influence. So we need to be careful about what we are popularizing. For example, foie gras is a good example. I think it's not a sustainable product, and it is not ethical as well. Ducks
It is
actually,
crucial for animals,
yeah,
actually,
it is. It is like it is
because of
a
force feeding, right?
yeah, exactly. Like the generally the geese and the ducks are force fed over the course of I think 100 days, and they get slaughtered for their livers just to maintain their foie gras. And at the end of the point, because of their getting force feed, the liver increases between 6 or 10 times from its normal size. And this process is taking advantage of the birds. It is really heartbreaking, actually.
Foie gras is the symbol of luxury,
Yeah, it is. It is.
as
And
well as caviar.
yeah,
It is also symbol of luxury and it is a non-sustainable food item.
yeah. And this obviously harms the ecosystem and also harms the animals. We should be really considering what we are consuming as customers.
Yeah, but what would be also another positive example? Can you give us, like, come up with an example?
Yeah, actually, in the restaurant that I'm working, Edika, we use a product that is called saltbush. It is a plant that grows near the beaches in here. It is a part of an Aboriginal consumption because they are the first people that they are using this product. It grows in near the beaches, as I said, and it invades everywhere. And in Edeka, in our kitchen teams actually gathers up at the beginning of the week, and we go there in a public place, and we collect this plant in bags. And of course, we are trying not to harm the plant as well. And we process it. We use in so many dishes. We fry it. We saute it. We even make a powder out of it, and it is really tasty. Also, we educate our customers, our guests as well, because most of them, if the Australians themselves, they don't know about this native product. So they learn about this product, they know about this culture. Also, they are being more conscious about what they are eating and how this product is getting collected by us. And they really get surprised after they hear about this story.
That's a perfect example for a wow factor. So we can clearly see that if a restaurant wants to have a wow factor, either they can have it with already declining species such as foie gras or such as caviar, but they can also do it with the species like saltbush, right? Because it's an invasive species, or with a species such as lionfish, because they are already abundant at hand, but maybe we don't know how to eat it, or people don't know how to eat it. And restaurants definitely have a role to show these products, to show how they can be a part of our food system, how can be a part of our eating habits. That's a great example, Tuğçe. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you. There is also an idea that came into my mind right now. There is an organization in Australia as well, which is called Good Fish. And there's a website that you can check which seafood products are sustainable and which seafood restaurants are using these sustainable seafood products. And you can check coast by coast, region by region, which fish is okay to eat, which is not to. For example, it doesn't say that, oh, you shouldn't eat salmon for sure, because it varies in different coasts as well. If that species in danger in one coast, you can collect it from another coast. But there are also species that you should say no as well, which they specify where you should get it from. And for example, like it doesn't say only Australia products, it says if it's imported from somewhere else and even farmed, you shouldn't consume it. And our restaurant is really careful about that as well, and we try to use only the seafood product they suggest us to consume. As customers, when you get your fish from your supermarket, you can also check like which kind of seafood products are okay and you're not contributing to extinction.
Thank you so much, Tuğçe. Thank you for today's episode and thank you for discussing the environmental indicators, the social indicators of sustainability in restaurants with us. And as well as you also explain what are the obstacles that the restaurant workers are facing when it comes to cooking sustainably. And you show us the reality of the kitchens. And in the last place, we discuss what can we do in order to adapt our system to climate change. And if there's nothing else you can say, you want to say, I want to close this episode.
Thank you for inviting me. Actually, this was an amazing opportunity to talk about because it is really rare to talk about these thoughts, especially sustainability in food sector. So thank you for giving me this chance and thank you for caring.
Thank you for caring, Tuğçe. And I want to finish the podcast with a quote I really like from Wendell Berry. Eating is inevitably an agricultural act, and how we eat determines to a considerable extent how the world is used. Thank you for being with us today, and have a nice day.